Hello and welcome to Verzió International Documentary Film Festival of Human Rights. We have a special guest here today from Norway, Monica Strømdahl, the director of Flophouse America. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be invited to your festival to have a talk with you. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Flophouse America is a documentary feature about the housing problem in the United States, where many people are forced to move into these so-called flophouse hostels. But your film does not attempt to provide a comprehensive picture of the social problem, but rather a very personal story about a 12-year-old boy, Mikal, and his family. They are living in one of these hostels, and the parents are battling with addiction. And first of all, my question would be about the film. Oh, and of course, I would like to also mention that Flophouse America will be part of the international competition for this year's festival. First of all, congratulations on Flophouse America being shortlisted by the European Film Academy of the 2016 awards. What does this acknowledgement mean to you?
It is a huge honor, and it feels overwhelming considering it's been many years in progress to make this film. It's 8 years ago now that we started the filming. And before I started making a film, I had this naive idea that I would be able to make a film in 10 weeks. And here we are 8 years later. But the film had developed with the real life of these people, and it took this time. And I think I'm very first and mostly, I feel the privilege it is to be able to be close to a family for that long, that I was allowed to follow them in their life, and that is where my deepest gratitude lies, and I'm aware of this privilege. Um, and besides that, it's just I don't have words for how is to be now in this competition. It's really huge. It's a big deal. And I just hope just being nominated will be is on the shortlist is just immense, and I hope it means that maybe more people will get the chance to see the film, which is what we want. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful.
The film depicts a side of America that we do not usually see in films or other forms of media. Could you tell us about how you first encountered with Mikal and his family, and what made you decide that the story of Clubhouse America should revolve around them particularly?
Yeah. So I have always been interested as a photographer and as a human. I've always been very curious about what is a home, what is this sense of home, these four walls that we are born in need of. Like we need food and we need shelter. Like what does it mean, this shelter to us? And coincidences wanted it so that when I was a young photography student, I needed the cheapest place to live in New York for a short period of time, and I checked into a hotel, which was the cheapest I found. And there, in these tiny, tiny rooms, I found people who had been living for 5, 10, 15 years in lack of a better option. They were not able to get into the traditional housing market, but they needed to be in the city. And this for them had started off as a temporary solution, but because it is so difficult to climb the economic ladder, it had become a permanent solution. And so what I learned there is that it wasn't completely the sense of home that they had. They wanted something better. They were longing for a better option for a shelter at night, but this was what they could afford. And I started photographing in this hotel. And when it shut down due to gentrification in 2013, I decided I wanted to go out and document the life of this very marginalized group of people who are, per definition, homeless. It is the invisible homeless population, and I wanted to give them a voice through my photography. Um, so I set out to make. I had in my mind I was going to make a book, but on one of my journeys, I traveled a little bit every year to different states, and my method has always been the same: to check in and to stay for as long as it takes for someone to get to know me and my project and want to talk to me and let me photograph them. And it was on one of these journeys that I met Mikal. And then, that marked the 10 years of the photography project when I met him. And I have met a lot of children in who live more or less permanently in hotels and hostels. And I was never particularly like interested in photographing the children. But Michael was the first child I've met who was born into the situation. This hotel room is his home, childhood home. He learned how to walk in the hallways. Um, and besides that, I saw him as an incredible, he was a school smart, street smart, incredibly emotionally intelligent young man who had learned how to navigate his own reality and his parents' reality. And not only is he born into the poverty, but he has the extra hurdle to overcome, which is his parents' alcohol addiction. And that will be something that he will have to overcome in his life in order to make it and break the generational cycle. And his parents were very clear on the fact that all they wanted and dreamed of in their lives was to give their son a better upbringing than what they had. But for Michael, we see that his needs are not met. He knows he deserves more. He fights for a better tomorrow, and he's on the search for something else, a different path. And I wanted to follow him on that search. So after the first encounter, I stayed with him for about 3 weeks. I made one photograph of Michael, and then I continued my journey. And but we kept in contact, and 1 year later, we decided to make a film together. So the intention is to show with the film is to show to give a face to this huge statistics of kids who grow up in poverty, who grow up in financial and emotional instability, what it feels to be one of these kids, so that we can understand how difficult it is to break the cycle. Because I feel like the statistics are numbers, they don't evoke emotion. But and you will maybe forget the numbers of these millions of kids who live like this, but you will not forget Michael's face. So that's what I wanted to do. And I felt like through the photography, I couldn't completely convey the full story and the human's complexity. So I decided to make a film to include voice, to include movement, because this way the family would have more ownership of their own story, and they would be able to tell it more on their own terms and in their own language, literally. And I would take a step back as a filmmaker, and I try to be invisible as much as you can. But yeah.
This is a highly intimate and personal film for Michael and, of course, for his parents as well. I would like to ask you that if you as a filmmaker approach a project like this, a story like this, which is about people with addiction, people with psychological problems as well, where is the fine line between exposure and empathy? Because, of course, you have to show this both things to the people, to the audiences, but you also show things that are, like they are very, very sensitive things that you are showing. Is it hard to navigate between the two? And what is your rule?
It is very hard to navigate. The ethical dilemmas are huge. And there was dilemmas from the very start, and we are still now, when we are showing the film, dealing with ethical dilemmas in how to protect the family in the best way. Um, the short answer will be, the time that I spent together with the family from the beginning. This became a very slow process, and one of the reasons why it was important to spend so much time together with the family to get to know each other is to give them the power. I didn't want them to feel any sort of politeness when they wanted me to stop filming. Like I wanted to be sure that they felt comfortable to not film on days, to tell me to, that they didn't want this or that, and to give their honest opinion. There was only one way to solve these kind of dilemmas about the power of the camera, which is huge, and that is to spend a lot of time with the family and constantly ask for consent to continue the project every time I go back. I didn't know for sure that this would become a film. This is an attempt to get close to a family with the camera as a tool. And so we took it step by step. And every time, every time I met them, I would ask for permission to continue. And if you ask about, the dilemmas and the between the exposure and the sensitive, our guideline was Michael's. This is Michael's perception. Like this is Michael's. We want to see the story through Michael's eyes. That is was what guided us when choosing what to include and not, because we wanted to make a film that was as close to reality as we could. Like the family had to recognize themselves. We had to stay true to the feeling that Michael had. And at the same time, we had to make a film that they would be able to carry for the rest of their lives. Like this is something that is going to stay with them. So, and Tanya, Michael's mom, she's not here anymore to make it up to Michael, you might say. So we had that in mind when doing the edit, and their opinion was very important. So the only rule, so to say, I had when starting the project is that they wanted to be the first to see the material, and they were able to give their feedbacks on the scenes and tell us what they thought. Um, but Michael's point of view is what guided us through making this balance of what to include and not in the film. Yeah.
And did they see the final film?
Yeah. They did see the final film, like, um, the motivations for being part of the project was different for the parents and Michael. Like Michael's parents, they wanted, they liked the idea and they wanted to be open about how difficult it is to be stuck in this situation that they are, because they believe that by showing a problem, will you be able to talk about it and see what you can do to fix it, to make it better. Um, Michael had an additional motivation, which was he wanted to use me and the footage to start dialogue with his parents about their life. He was sure that if his parents would see his point of view, how it feels to be him, they would change their ways. So it was very moving when they did see the footage together, and Michael was able to say, do you see what he has been for me? And Michael's father completely, he agreed. He saw what it felt like for Michael in a different way, and they were able to have a conversation that they wouldn't have had without the film. So that was a really big moment for me as a filmmaker to see that, it actually had it had an effect on the conversation between the family members. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that the act of filming might have affected Michael and his parents?
I think that from the start, um, because in the film I try to be invisible, but in real life I'm totally present in the room the whole time, and I'm present also when we are not filming. Through conversations. We kept in contact now for 8 years. We have been in each other's life, and from the start, I think that Michael felt seen by me being there. I think he felt empowered by being there. I think all three of them felt stronger by me being in the room. They felt important. Um, and they felt like they had, a story to tell. So I totally think that from the start, I this project has had an effect on the family, and I don't want to put too much pressure on their shoulders, but I have a hope, seeing now how this film is received, um, that it will have maybe a deeper impact on the future of for Michael, in some ways. But there is something about being seen, by somebody. Sometimes it only takes, one person in your life to that acknowledges what you are going through, that can say yes, what you thought was true, what you thought was right. And I very much hope that this film can have that effect on Michael. Yeah.
I think Flophouse America is a good example that documentary filmmaking can have social value because it can change people's lives. You not only observe people, but you also interact with people. Even so, if you don't put yourself in the film, you're still there and you can still make a change.
Yes, yes, completely. I hope so. I mean, that's the huge privilege. I mean, the camera is just a tool to get close to people, right? And if the film is made in America, but if you take away all the culture, this it's one building, is one house, is one home, is one family, is one boy. um, and the dynamics between the family members, it's completely universal. The struggle to on how to love, how to be seen, the fight for a better life, for a better future, it's completely universal. And there are people who have seen the film who can tell me that they recognize their own story and their own emotions. They feel seen, and what they went through is validated, and they feel represented um, by the film, and that is more than one can hope for. Just a contribution to a conversation about how we are as a society, how we take care of each other within the family, but also between us. Yeah.
You have already mentioned a few things about this, but I would like to ask about the style of the film a little bit. As you have said before, your background is in photography, and you also said that you did not want to only reduce this thing to photos, but rather to make a motion picture. But do you think that your background in photography has influenced the way you shot and framed this story?
Yes, completely. I mean, I didn't really, that's the only way that I can start this film or make it, is as a photographer. Um, yeah, I use my camera that I normally photograph with because that's what I'm familiar with. My method is just intuitive, where I use available light. I place myself according to the light. I frame according to I don't know whatever where my empathy lies, I guess, and the light. And I don't know how else to do it, but to make the film as I would with the with a photograph. Yeah. Yeah, completely. I have learned a lot, and I have a deepest respect for people who work with, who make films and work with sound, and it's definitely been a steep learning curve for me.
For me, it was a interesting aspect of the film that it starts with the fact that more than 10% of Americans live in poverty, or maybe I don't know the exact numbers, but something like that. And so it starts off like a, like a social political documentary, but then you decide to focus on Michael, and he's a great protagonist of this story. And I was wondering that when you decided to focus on him instead of the broad social issues of the United States. Was it because you are from Norway and you did not want to talk too much about the American politics, or is it because of something else?
Um, I will have to say that the reason why I chose Michael was because of his strength. Like it was the positives also. I don't know if I understood your question correctly, but I chose him because uh, because I thought that he was going to make it. Out of, all the people that I have met through my photography project, I thought that he was going to make it. He is going to break the generational cycle, is what I thought. And the family really, really tried the best, they can. And it's just what is important here, the politics are for Michael in his life as a 12-year-old, the politics they don't exist.
Mhm.
For him, it's, the everyday and, the what is going on between, like, within these four walls where his foundation is built. And it is getting to trying, the film is an attempt to get close to the feeling of this child. Therefore, the politics are not important for him. He doesn't sit there and think about the politics and how, in what way and what legislation can make his life better. Um, that is up for us. That's up to us as the viewer to take this feeling that the child has, um, and to make something of it. Us who look at it now. Now, what do we do now that we know we have this information of how it feels, now that Michael has shared his claustrophobia with us? What can we do, and how can we affect the politics that we know are failing? How can we see families that are falling through the cracks of our society now that we know what it feels like? And that's also, like, my method by making this film that is, it unfolds as we see it, is because it hits harder. It hits hard to see a child who is growing up in neglect. And it is to evoke emotion that will make us act and affect the politics around us, actually. So it's a hope that, that we can do better.
Yeah, right, right. And my last question is perhaps not very easy to answer, but what would you like for the audience to take away from your film, if there is one thing?
Yeah. So I would like the audience to get a greater understanding of how important our foundation that is being built is, in order to be able to build the rest of the house, the rest of our lives, that we don't have equal starting points. Um, I feel like, especially in the US, you look at, where it's romanticized that anyone can do anything,
Yeah,
and the American dream, whatever. Those stories of people who have succeeded, who have risen above poverty, they are used as success stories as proof that anyone can do this, but I think that they should be used as examples on how freaking difficult it is, because it's almost impossible. So I want the audience to get, a deeper understanding on how complex and how difficult it is to actually break through. And as human fellows, I want us to go out and think about what can we do to catch children like Mikal who is around us in our own community. How can we strengthen our support system? Because we know that families are falling through the cracks everywhere. How can we build a stronger platform that we can all fit on and take care of each other? This individualistic way of thinking about society only um, builds walls between us. And so, there is something about including kids, having our eyes open, being kind to our neighbor, saying hello, being interested in what's going on in our local communities, um, taking care of each other and each other's, kids. And as for our politician, I want them to be pressured to make legislations that will provide better services for families in need. For sure, we are building this impact campaign. We have looked at what services Michael and his parents had access to, and we're seeing, where did they get access to these services? Like, was it like on a poster at the doctor's office, and what did his teachers do to see him? Did they see him? Like, where, and responsibility is it to see and to act? Um, so that's the politics of it. And as fellow humans, I just, open our eyes to each other and think that we are all one and we are stronger when we are together. You know.
I think these are great final words. for, for Thank you again, Monica, for being here with us, and congratulations again for this fantastic documentary. And we would like to wish you great luck for the future with these films, and as well for future projects. And for the Hungarian audience, you can watch Flophouse America at Verzió International Documentary Film Festival this November in the international competition. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you.